A better route. Chapter 97. Obito wasn't sure if he'd ever been this angry in his life. The man who stood before him had been doing nothing but destroying the very thing he claimed to protect for the past 40 years. Danzo was one of the most despicable creatures on this earth, and it was time to put an end to his monstrous ways. Danzo Shimura, every decision you've ever made in your life has ended in death and pain for others. You've restarted route, and now that I can prove it, I can say this at last. As acting Hokage, I hereby declare you to be conspiring against the Leaf and sentence you to death. Danzo wasn't about to give up. You dare to claim I'm conspiring against the Leaf? Everything I've done is for the Hidden Leaf. If anything, you should be thanking me. Obito couldn't believe he even claimed that. You're a pathetic little man who lost the chance to be Hokage, and so he tries and runs things from the shadows. Danzo pulled a kunai from his pouch. You'll clearly never understand what it means to be a ninja. Just like that fool Hiruzen and those idiots on the council. Obito cracked his knuckles. Funny, I was about to the same thing about you and those psychos at Root. Honestly, Danzo, you may be one hell of ninja, but I don't think you're any match for me. Maybe back when you had both of your arms, but now there's no way. Danzo could see that his attempts at making himself seem less threatening had worked. I could see how you'd make that mistake, but I may be more powerful now than I've ever been in my entire life. Obito wasn't going to underestimate him. He was known for being one of the sneakiest people on the face of the earth, but he was still confused as to what he could do with just one arm. Danzo took in some air and infused it with chakra, blowing it on the kunai he'd taken out earlier. The kunai more or less became the hilt of blade of wind made from Danzo's chakra. With blade in hand, Danzo sprinted to Obito to begin the fight. He'd almost forgotten Danzo had been the Leaf's most powerful wind user back in his heyday. Obito got low and ducked underneath Danzo's blade, kicking it out of his hand and grabbing the old man by the throat. Danzo in return grabbed Obito's arm to loosen his grip and head-butted him hard. Once Obito loosened his death grip, Danzo did a backflip to get out of the way. He took this opportunity to get a move in on Obito. He decided to go with one of his trustiest attacks, Vacuum Blast Barrage. Several slicing gusts of wind were released from Danzo's mouth and right at Obito. Obito was in awe as he jumped out of the way of the blasts. He knew Danzo was good with wind style, but to be able to use attacks like that without any hand signs took damn impressive control. No wonder he was considered for the position of Hokage. Still though, Obito had plenty of powerful jutsus of his own. He made some quick hand seals and placed his hands on the ground, raging mud river. Danzo soon found himself being swept up by an earth attack and slammed into a tree. It took him a decent distance from Obito and took out a scroll, biting his thumb to get a little blood after he did so. He summoned something from inside the scroll, summoning jutsu. Obito didn't even know Danzo had a summoning animal, but that didn't really matter now. Once he was able to see what it was, he could only say one thing: what in the fuck? What stood before him was an orange elephant with tiger legs and sharp teeth. Danzo noticed his confusion. This is Baku, the dream elephant. Many people think that he doesn't exist, however I know better. Obito remembered hearing something like that, but it just sounded so crazy he never bothered to look any further into it. He was curious to see just what this Baku thing could do. Baku rumbled, wind release, vacuum serial waves. Obito felt a massive pressure pulling him that appeared to be coming from the elephant's mouth. He mumbled to himself, a wind attack, huh? I think I can handle this. Let's see how he likes a little bit of this. Obito went for the Uchiha's most famous attack, the Fireball Jutsu. Baku's wind enhanced its power and he sucked it right into his mouth. It hit, causing the elephant to scream in pain and disappear back to where he came from. The Hokage couldn't help but chuckle. Awful lot of build-up for something that easy to beat, Danzo? Danzo was starting to get nervous. He had taken out Baku like he was nothing, and that was one of Danzo's aces in the hole. It was clear that he was going to have use his most powerful form. Grabbing his bandages, Danzo started to unbind his arm with Obito looking at him quizzically, okay, from one major source of confusion to the next. What in the hell is he doing now? Slowly all of the bandage began to fall off from Danzo, and what Obito saw would likely haunt his nightmares for eternity, Mother of God. His entire right arm was pale and frankly didn't even look like it belonged to a human. 10 Sharingans covered it from top to bottom. Obito had never seen anything like it before. He knew Danzo wanted power, but to go as far as to do something like this. Danzo seemed very proud of it though. This is my greatest weapon. Several people had to die to make it a reality, but it was worth it in the end. What I have here is going to be your demise, Obito. Your clan's greatest power is what's going to kill you. Obito was still trying to figure out what would possess a human to do that to themselves. He figured it was better to kill Danzo now than find out. The Uchiha used the Amaterasu on Danzo, covering him in the black flames. While Danzo let out cries of agony, Obito waited to see if the jutsu was all he was going to need to finish him. He was glad to see that before long there was nothing left of the old fool's body. Obito gave a deep sigh of relief that was quickly interrupted. Come on boy, it's gonna take more than that to finish me. Obito spun around to where the voice had come from, and sure enough Danzo was standing right there. It wasn't possible. He knew he wasn't in a genjutsu and was sure his attack had hit. Yet here Danzo stood without a scratch on him. He noticed one of the eyes on Danzo's arm had closed as well. It wasn't long before Obito put the pieces together. So that's what the Sharingan are for. You intend to use the forbidden genjutsu, the Izanagi. According to what I've read, it's able to actually alter reality, giving the user true immortality. Most people can only use it for about 2 minutes, one for each eye. You however have managed to get 10 Sharingan, so I'm going to guess you've got 10 minutes. Too bad, for the eye closes forever after it's used. Danzo was impressed at how much he knew. That's about right. Do you see the situation you've gotten yourself into now, Obito? Obito wasn't scared in the least. No matter how much I accomplish, you still think so little of me. I'm one of the most powerful Uchiha ever to live. You're merely tampering with powers you don't understand. You've got 10 minutes to try and figure out how to hit me, which frankly isn't even close to enough. You're not going to be leaving this fight alive. Danzo hadn't feared for his life this much since Root had first been discovered. It took a lot of smooth talking to get him out of that one. If he didn't kill Obito within 10 minutes, then it was all over. He grabbed 2 kunais and created wind blades from them once again. Obito and Danzo were about to show each other what they could really do. The 10 minutes that followed had to have been one of the finest one-on-one fights in the history of the shinobi world. Both of them were fought without holding even an ounce of their power back. Danzo actually had several trees grow right out of his arm. Apparently he also had DNA for the first in his arm as well and was completely unable to control it. Obito used everything in his vast repertoire to wear down Danzo, from his nearly flawless genjutsus, although he didn't use the Tsukumi as he didn't think it would work on him if he had the Izanagi, to his astounding number of ninjutsu, and had even gotten close up for some taijutsu. The time seemed to pass differently for the two combatants. For Obito, it seemed like those 10 minutes he so desperately needed passed by at the speed of a snail. Every last minute felt like an hour. However, for Danzo the time passed all too quickly, like a void was absorbing it all. It seemed like those minutes were gone in seconds. Each eye closed one by one, each one trying to take Danzo's life with it. He could feel his life slipping away and death drawing ever closer. His mind was going back to everything he'd done he'd killed and those he'd betrayed. The countless bodies that he'd pulled up and the river of blood he must have had on his hands at this point. Yet, even now he felt no guilt, no remorse for his actions. Even when considering the legacy he'd left behind, he felt more pride than guilt. All of these thoughts raced through his mind as the last eye closed. Obito could see that even he knew there was nowhere left for him to run. It's over, Danzo. You've got no sneaky little tricks left, no powers left to use. For once in your life stand down and let me execute you with some dignity. Danzo honestly laughed at that. Dignity, eh? I'm going to die the most dignified death a person could ever die, the death of a shinobi. With my final breath I'm going to take you with me. Danzo ripped off his shirt and a strong seal began to cover his body, reverse 4 symbols sealing technique. Obito wasn't about to stick around and get caught up in whatever the hell Danzo was planning. He used his Kamui and teleported the hell out of there in an instant. He wasn't sure just how far he'd teleported away as he didn't have much time to think about it, but he would have guessed about 300 feet. He did however hear something that sounded like an explosion, but not exactly right. Out of pure curiosity he teleported back to find everything that had been within 100 feet of where Danzo had been. The sound had been enough to draw the attention of the others as well. Everyone else had finished up their fights and were more or less just waiting to make sure Obito was. Kabuto saw the scene of the battle and Obito without a scratch on him. He honestly thought he was dreaming. You actually killed Danzo without getting hurt? Obito shrugged. What can I say, I'm known as one of the most powerful ninjas of my generation. Others started to arrive slowly as well, with Naruto and Sasuke both carrying someone on their back. Naruto said, he was knocked out so I didn't really see any reason to kill him. Don't get me wrong, he was crazy but I don't think he's dangerous if he gets some help. Sasuke's reasons were pretty similar. Yeah, these guys didn't seem totally brainwashed by Orochimaru like the Sound 5 was. We should at least give them a shot. Plus he said he knew Karen and I didn't want to risk killing one of her friends. Sai finally appeared as well holding the bundle of scrolls that started this whole mess. Alright, I've got all of the scrolls Danzo stole. Obito knew there was some kind of story about what was going on but they weren't going to sort it out here. Let's just get to my office and have all of you tell your stories. At least I can take solace in one thing, killing Danzo was actually worth all of the paperwork it's gonna cause. See you in the next one.